London in the 1600s was one of the biggest cities in Europe. It was also one of the easiest to burn. Hundreds of thousands of people lived in tall wooden houses. They were packed along narrow streets. Fires, candles and ovens burned in these homes day and night. In this film, real 17th century drawings and engravings of London are used as guides. Advanced AI turns those historic images into moving scenes. Together, they let us step into London before the Great Fire of 1666. Old London Bridge was the main way into the city from the south, but it did not feel like a simple stone crossing. It felt like a busy high street laid across the River Thames. More than 100 houses and shops stood on the bridge. They stood shoulder to shoulder along both sides. Some rose 5 or 6 floors high. Upper rooms pushed out over the road and over the water. From the river, the bridge looked almost solid, like a wall of timber and plaster resting on heavy stone piers. Smoke drifted from chimneys. Painted signs swung in the wind. Shutters stood open where people watched the boats below. Under the roadway, the Thames squeezed through 19 narrow arches. The piers slowed the flow so much that the water dropped on the far side like a low waterfall. Boatmen had to time their run carefully, to shoot the bridge at the right moment. If they were wrong, the hull could smash against the stone. A small boat could flip in the foaming current. On the bridge itself, the sound never really stopped. Carts loaded with grain, coal and firewood rattled over uneven stone. Apprentices ran between doors with messages and parcels. Traders tried to talk business over the clatter. The air carried the smell of fish, hot fat, smoke and chamber pots all at once. At the Southwark end stood a stone gate. For many years it showed the heads of people executed for treason. They stood on iron spikes above the road. Anyone entering London passed under that warning. For people of the time, the bridge summed up their city: crowded, profitable, loud, and always living close to danger. Step back from the bridge and look along the river. The Thames was London's real highway. Deep sea ships lay at anchor in the stream. Closer to the banks, flat-bottomed lighters moved cargo to and from the wharves. Small passenger boats, called wherries, carried people across and along the water. Along the north bank, cranes lifted barrels and bales to the quays. Wine, grain, coal, timber, wool, and goods from many countries all passed through these narrow strips of riverfront. The air was full of sound. Ropes creaked, sails flapped, boatmen shouted for space. Church bells echoed across the water from steeples in the city. For many Londoners, a boat was faster than a cart. The river tied together markets, palaces, poor districts, and nearby towns. If you followed the Thames east, you reached the sea. If you followed it west, you reached the court and the countryside. Climb up from the river into the city, and the streets close in. Here you find places like Cheapside, one of London's busiest markets. Tall timber-framed houses line the road. Each upper floor pushes out further than the one below. In the narrowest parts, the buildings almost meet above your head. The ground floor is full of shops and stalls. Bakers, cloth sellers, goldsmiths and spice merchants all fight for attention. Apprentices stand at the doors, calling out prices and praising their master's goods. The smells here are strong and mixed: fresh bread and roasting meat, leather and smoke, spices from overseas, and the sour stench of waste washing along open drains. Carts grind deep ruts into the earth or into rough paving stones. People squeeze between wheels, animals and baskets. On busy days, it can take minutes just to move a few yards. At the west end of the city stands old St. Paul's Cathedral. Its stone walls are dark from smoke and age. Its great medieval spire has already been lost to lightning. Even so, the tower and roof still dominate the skyline of roofs and smaller steeples. Around the church, the open yard has become a book market. Printers and booksellers fill stalls and small shops. They sell sermons, ballads, news sheets, and political pamphlets. Here, news can spread faster than by word of mouth alone. Inside the nave, people do more than pray. The long central aisle is known as Paul's Walk. Gentlemen, petitioners, and beggars stroll up and down. They trade gossip, make deals, and look for work or patronage. In a city full of arguments about faith and politics, St. Paul's is both a church and a meeting place. Words spoken and printed here help shape what Londoners believe about God, the King, and themselves. Travel west along the river and the streets begin to thin. You reach Westminster. Here the noise of markets gives way to the slower movements of law and government. The Palace of Westminster holds the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Inside, members argue about taxes, war, religion, and the powers of the Crown. Next to the palace stands Westminster Hall. It is a huge medieval hall with a wide timber roof. It is used for great trials, feasts, and state ceremonies. Behind them rises Westminster Abbey. Here kings are crowned. Many are buried under its stone floors. In the yards between palace and abbey, messengers, scribes, lawyers, clergy, and servants hurry along worn stone paths. The choices they help to carry in, copy, and send out will touch every part of the kingdom. Further downstream lies Whitehall. It stretches along the north bank of the Thames, a long line of royal buildings. By the early 1600s, Whitehall is the main home of the English monarch. It is a mix of lodgings, offices, chapels, great halls and gardens, joined together over many years. The river is its front door. Royal barges and noble visitors arrive by water. They climb broad stone stairs that rise straight from the Thames into the palace courtyards. From the river, you may see bright clothes moving in the gardens. You may see servants carrying messages across balconies and through gates. In this place, power dresses in silk, but it still depends on the same waterway that carries grain, coal, and timber. On a bend of the river to the east stands the Tower of London. Its thick stone walls and corner towers rise above the wharves and warehouses. The tower began as a fortress many centuries earlier. By the 1600s it serves as fortress, prison, storehouse, and royal symbol all at once. Inside are armories filled with weapons. There are storerooms, royal records, and the crown jewels, guarded by soldiers. There are also prisoners. Important men accused of treason may be kept here, sometimes in reasonable comfort, sometimes in harsh cells. For people watching from boats or from the opposite bank, the tower is both protection and warning. Its walls say that the crown has stone, iron, and rope, as well as gold and ceremony. Behind the famous streets and churches, most Londoners live in cramped back lanes and hidden courts. Timber houses stand so close that neighbours can almost touch hands from opposite windows. Inside are small, low rooms where families cook, sleep, and work. Open fires burn in hearths. Candles and oil lamps give light in windowless corners. Many workshops also use flames. Blacksmiths heat metal. Tallow chandlers boil fat for candles. Brewers cook mash for ale. all this happens only a wall or a floor away from tightly packed neighbours. Rubbish does not always travel far. People tip slops into gutters. They store firewood, straw and goods under stairs and in lofts. In dry, windy weather, sparks from one chimney can jump to the next roof, and then to the next street. Everyone knows fire is a danger, but widening streets and rebuilding in brick costs money. So the city keeps growing upward and inward, feeding more fuel into the same tight maze. Walk only a short distance beyond the walls and London falls away. There are fields, orchards and market gardens. Small villages like Islington and Clerkenwell send milk, vegetables and fresh meat into the city. From here, the city looks like a tight cluster of roofs and towers. St. Paul's rises in the centre. Church spires and the line of Old London Bridge stretch out from it toward the river. It is hard to believe that this small patch of buildings holds perhaps 300,000 people. Yet its smoke stains the sky. Its trade and news reach far into the countryside. In early September 1666, a fire starts in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane. The houses around it are wooden. The lanes are narrow. A strong east wind is blowing. The flames move from roof to roof faster than the city can fight them. For 4 days, the fire runs through the old wooden maze. It destroys about 4/5 of the city inside the walls. Old St. Paul's, many churches, thousands of homes and shops, and whole markets vanish into smoke. Old London Bridge survives, but the neighbourhoods that fed it change forever. In the years that follow, a new London of brick, stone and wider streets rises from the ashes. Very little of the London you have just walked through still stands above ground. But its river, its street lines and its choices still shape the city today. If there is another city or time you would like to see rebuilt, let it be known. History leaves traces everywhere.